Good evening. So today's second article is on deal in danger. So a no deal Brexit has economic costs and puts at risk the hard-won peace in Northern Ireland. So there was a no deal Brexit has an economic cost and puts at risk the hard-won peace in the Northern Ireland. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson moved to set an October 15 deadline for reaching a post Brexit UK EU trade deal has raised fears of a no deal scenario. So, the British Prime Ministers Boris Johnson have moved to the October 15 deadline for reaching the post Brexit UK and EU trade deal, which have raised fears of a no deal scenario. So while the threat hangs like the sword of a Damocles, Damocles above the negotiating teams, the British government is reportedly planning a piece of legislation that would override parts of the withdrawal agreement, the divorce deal signed between the UK and the EU last year. So, while there was a threat of hangs like sword of Damocles about the settled teams, the British government have reported that they are planning a piece of legislation that would override the parts of withdrawal agreement. So the divorce deal means a diverting deal signed between the UK and the EU last year, which was signed. The agreement had sought to avoid a hard border coming up between Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, and the Irish Republic, an EU member. According to the Northern Ireland Protocol signed alongside the agreement, the region is expected to follow some EU rules in trade with the Irish Republic. So the agreement has sought out to be to avoid a hard border coming up between the Northern Ireland, which is a part of UK and the Irish Republic and EU member. According to the Northern Ireland Protocol means rules, there was signed alongside the agreement. The region is expected to follow the EU rules in trade of Irish Republic. So the hard Brexiteers in Mr. Johnson's Conservative Party were critical of this clause, claiming that it endangers the UK's sovereignty. So the hard Brexiters in Mr. Johnson's Conservative Party were very critical of this clause and were thinking that their sovereignty will be endangered, means finished there here will be exhausted. Now, the planned domestic legislation, the Internal Market and Finances Bill, will allow UK courts to follow new UK laws rather than the divorce agreement. So, the now planned domestic legislations, the Internal Market and the Finances Bill, will allow UK courts to follow new UK laws rather than divorce agreement. Northern Ireland leaders have already called it as a betrayal. So the real risk of cutting the region of the EU customs code is that physical checks could emerge between the two Irelands, threatening Good Friday Agreement that brought peace. So, if the Northern Ireland's leader is already called it a betrayal, and a real risk is that cutting the region off from the EU customs will lead to physical checks between these two Irelands, which will threaten the Good Friday, which has brought peace in them. Though the UK formally exited the Union, it continues to abide by the EU rules during the transition period, which ends in December. So, though the UK formally have exited the Union, it continues to abide the EU rules. Means News continues to accept by the EU rules during the transition period, which ends in the December. The challenge is to reach a trade deal, in the absence of which WTO trade rules will kick in starting January. So the challenge is to reach a trade deal, in the absence of which WTO trade rules will kick in the starting of January. With weeks to go before the deadline, there is still no consensus on issues such as workers' rights, environmental regulations, state aid to business, and the Irish border. So, the weeks are to be for the with weeks to go before the deadline means a particular project means only few days before, there is still no concord means a general agreement or a statement on issues such as workers' rights, environmental regulations, state aid to businesses, and Irish border. While the EU wants to UK to adopt rules that are close to its own to ensure a level playing field in the trade, and the British government argues that the whole point of the EU divorce was to break free from common rules. The British government argues that the whole point of the EU divorce was to break free from common rules. Regarding the Northern Ireland, the hard Brexiters are opposed to a special treatment in the region. So, regarding the Northern Ireland, hard Brexiters were opposed for special treatment of to the region. The new legislation suggests that the government is hardening its position on Ireland as well. So, the new legislation has suggested that the government is hardening its position in the new Ireland as well. Driven by English nationalists' fervor, the British leadership appears to be blind to the economic and political consequences of its hardline. So, if you see the English nationalists' intense, passionate feeling, I'm sorry, intense, passionate feeling. The British leadership appears to be blind to the economic and political consequences of its hardline. The Brexiters the Brexiters have already pushed the UK into an unenviable position in Europe, and a no deal exit with inflict severe economic costs on the British at a time when the economy is in dire straits due to the COVID-19. So the Brexiters have already pushed the UK into an unenviable position in Europe, and there was no deal exit with inflict severe and economic costs on the British at a time when the economy is in a low due to the COVID-19 situation. Besides, it risks disrupting peace in the island of Ireland. Besides, it risks disrupting peace in the island of the Ireland. Mr. Johnson and his cabinet should ask themselves whether there is no deal risk is worth taking or not. They should instead respect the withdrawal agreement and be flexible in the talks as well as on deadlines. So they have to be very careful about these no deal risks. They should both sides should focus on reaching a agreement on trade and other future relations, and not on ending the relationship at any cost. So today's second article is about the UK and EU's deal, which is going to be no deal. It's like it's going to be no deal, so they are concentrating on this. Thank you.